Imagine a dog, an animal that has been by our side for thousands of years. It has floppy ears, a flappy tail, sometimes curled into a ring, spotted fur, and a wide range of personalities, from a gentle companion to a vigilant guard. But its most important trait is the unique bond it shares with humans. A dog can read our emotions, adjust to our mood, and actively seek contact. All of this is what we call domestication, both the outward features and the behavior. Now imagine that I'm not describing a dog at all. All of these traits can also be found in a fox. But not a wild fox, one bred through a unique scientific experiment that began more than 60 years ago in the Soviet Union. In 1959, in Moscow, a more precisely Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev set himself an ambitious goal to test how the process of domestication really works. For this, he chose silver-black foxes as a model species. The experiment was moved to Novosibirsk, to the Institute of Cytology and Genetics of the Siberian branch of the Academy of Sciences. The goal was clear: to gradually breed a tame fox, one that would seek our human contacts much like a dog does. So how was the selection carried out? Everything started with a simple test. The researchers would approach the cage and offer a hand. A fox might growl, retreat, try to bite, or in rare cases show curiosity. The animals that did not show fear or aggression, and especially those that came closer, were selected for breeding. Year after year, the process was repeated. The tamest parents produced offspring, and from them the friendless individuals were chosen again. And here came the surprising part. Belyaev and his colleague Lyudmila Trud originally selected foxes only for behavior. What mattered was their temperament and reaction to humans. But after just a few generations, unexpected physical changes began to appear. Some foxes developed white spots on their fur, floppy ears, curly tails, and shorter, rounder muzzles. In other words, their appearance started to shift, showing the very same traits we associated with cute and domestic animals. This became a key discovery. The experiment showed that when you select animals for behavioral traits, you also trigger a whole set of changes in their bodies. In other words, friendliness and reduced aggression are genetically linked with physical and physiological features. That is why the Novosibirsk fox experiment is considered unique. Around the world, there are very few long-term, carefully controlled domestication studies. Usually, domestication is something that takes thousands of years of living alongside humans, a story that can be tracked step by step. Here, however, scientists were able to recreate that process in real time, keeping all generations and recording the changes. So, what was the result? First, it became clear that behavior and morphology are much more closely connected than anyone thought. The foxes were not only became tame, they were also starting to look like other domestic animals. Second, by studying their genome, scientists were able to identify stretches of DNA linked to stress response, hormone regulation, and social behavior. These findings turn out to be available not just for understanding domestications, but also for behavioral science in general. But the most fascinating part is what happened to the foxes today. The experiment has now gone on more than 60 generations. The domesticated foxes live in a special farm near Akademgorodok in Novosibirsk. Until recently, you could actually buy one of these foxes. From time to time, the institute sold them, both to people in Russia and abroad. Before the sale, each fox was sterilized to keep control over the breeding population and to protect the integrity of the experiment. But things have changed. Starting this year, a new law in Russia prohibits private individuals from keeping foxes as pets. So the dream of having one of these remarkable animals at home has now become uncertain, and the domesticated foxes remain where their story began, at the research farm near Akademgorodok. Belyaev's experiment and the work of his successors became one of the clearest examples of how science can shed light on evolutionary processes, and the foxes of Novosibirsk remain living proof that even a wild predator can be turned into a companion animal if approached with patience, persistence, and scientific curiosity. Thanks for watching! If this story was interesting to you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time!